Hey everybody, welcome to week 5. We have a lot to cover this week in our Zoom session on Wednesday because of last week's rest period, but I hope that you're all ready to go, super enthusiastic. We're going to have tons to talk about, and probably have to push some of it into next week, but that'll be okay. So here's your weekly rundown of what's going on in week 5. First up, you do have part of a chapter. Chapter 6 is what we're covering this week in our material, especially pages 137 to 140 and 145 to 155. We also have a second essay to read. It's called Up, Up, and Across, and what it's about is kind of the adaptations of Superman across different media at this time. So tracing how the character changes from comic book to film and then to television and back again to kind of continue building the character. Part of this will also, this idea of adaptation and how it works, will also fuel some of our discussion of the Goldbergs and hopefully be applicable to some of our discussion of last week's Amos and Andy episodes as well. So we have that reading. You don't have a lecture video this week. I'm going to do something a little different just to break it up a little bit. And in addition to having our discussion of what we covered last week in our Zoom session on Wednesday, I've got some slides that are already posted that kind of take us through a couple of things I want us to make sure are under our belts from World War II until the actual full-on introduction of television in the late 1940s. And so we'll look at those slides and kind of use it for guided discussion for a portion of class this week. So feel free to look at the slides and come ready to talk about that stuff. Then you do have several things to listen to and or watch this week. So first, you've got an episode of The Goldbergs to listen to and an episode of The Goldbergs to watch. It's a radio show that was adapted to television, much like Amos and Andy and lots of other programs that you've been reading about. Then you have an episode of The Adventures of Superman that will tie directly into the Up, Up, and Across essay. And then we have an episode of a panel show from the 1950s called What's My Line? This was a very popular show. It ran for a long time. And it's basically that there's a panel of celebrities who are there to guess the job of the person who's appearing on the show. So someone appears on the show, the audience knows what their job is. The celebrities are allowed to ask them a question to kind of narrow it down and figure out what their line is, okay, their line of work. It's a fun show. This episode is one of my personal favorites because it's got Groucho Marx, who appeared on the show a lot in its run. And was a huge TV personality after he kind of stopped making movies in the 1940s. And if you're familiar at all with the Marx Brothers or Groucho Marx from film history classes, you'll know exactly that what kind of crazy anarchy he's going to get up to. Basically breaking apart how the show is supposed to work and intentionally disrupting it. It's a lot of fun. Then we have our weekly Zoom session on Wednesday at 4:20. We will probably take the whole hour and 15 minutes this week, just to give you a heads up, since we're covering last week's material as well. And then our voice thread assignment, I actually want to tie it into next week's material, so I'm going to move that date to next weekend as its due date. Okay, so I'll get that up and posted very soon, but I'm kind of rethinking about what I want us to do. So it's coming, and you'll have more time to do it. Then the last thing I want to tell you is that you're going to have your test questions this weekend. You don't have your test due until week 7. They're due Saturday, the 13th. So you will get those questions this week. You'll have plenty of time to look over them. You can start working on them if you want to. You can submit them early, however you want to do it. And then, we meet next week. We have week 6 material, but then the week after, week 7, is just focusing on the test. So you don't have to do anything. You can kind of just look at it or whatever, and then turn it in on time or early or however you want to do it. But I will get you the questions early so that if you have anything to ask me about, like the flow, the structure, anything like that, we can cover it next week. That's it. I look forward to seeing you all on Wednesday. Take care of yourselves and have a good week.